How do you adjust the length of your rope? First of all, if you are not sure about the size of your rope, it's generally better to go longer rather than shorter because if you have a short rope, there's nothing that you can do about it. With a long rope, there are a few ways that you can shorten the length. First tip is do not cut your rope because if you cut it too short, again, you can't go back from that. What you'll be doing is tying knots in your rope or adjusting your handle. Some manufacturers don't want you to tamper with the handle, but that is one of the options. So first, let's talk about the knots. There are two main knots that you can use to shorten the length of your rope, and you can put in as many knots as you would like. Generally, you want to put the knots fairly close to the handle, probably about 3 to 4 inches from the handle, and it's entirely okay to have more than one knot in your rope. The first knot is the overarm knot. So basically what you do is you take the rope. So this one is uncoiled without a handle. I'll show you how to tie the handle in a second. But basically you take the rope, you put one end over the other, you bring the other side through the loop, and that creates this knot. Right? This will probably take out about 3 to 4 inches of your rope, depending on the thickness of the rope. A thicker rope tends to shorten more when you put a knot in it. The second knot that you'll use is the figure 8 knot. That is my preferred knot because it tends to be more symmetrical in the rope. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. So with the first one, you go over the rope through the loop, but for the figure 8, you go over, back to the other side. So instead of over and then back on here, you go another round, like kind of not actually a full loop, but a round, and then you come through the loop. And what that creates is this beautiful figure 8 that you will see over here. So what you'll notice is with the figure 8 knot, it's a bit more balanced. Both sides are parallel to each other. So the rope is less at an angle. So if you see with the other overhand knot before, you kind of get the ropes at an angle. Make sense? So I'll show that again. This is the first knot, just over one side and in through the loop. And then with the figure 8, instead of in, you go around the back and then in through the hole. And that creates this knot. There you go. So then the handle. The first one I will show you, there are two main ways to tie the knots on the handle. One is first you start off with about an arm's length of rope. So from the elbow to your fist. And this is a stopper knot. Stopper knot. So you have your free end here, and this is the end. Make a loop, and you start from the top. You go round a couple of times. Generally, 2 to 3 times is the preferred number. And then what you do is, so you have the loop, you've gone around a couple of times, and you bring the rope down through the bottom, in through all of the loops, and up, out through the last loop at the top. And so I'll pull it tight, and then you can start to see it. There you go. So this is with 2 knots, 1, 2. And then this is just the top and bottom side of it coming up. That's what it looks like. So nice grip around the top. So that's one. Again, you can put in as many loops as you want to. If you want more than 2, just go around another time, right? The other one is the multiple overhand knot. The only difference with that is instead of starting from the top, going around, and then coming through the bottom, you start from the bottom. So kind of like, remember when we did that first knot? You go cross and then up the main loop. Instead, you're going from the bottom a few times. So looping up towards the top. So here from the bottom, loop, loop up again, and then you end up through the top, through the last loop in the hole. With the multiple overhand knot, it works almost just as well, but it's not as secure. I find that if your rope is a bit stiffer and it's a bit harder to tie the stopper knot, then you can use this and it works as well. So here's what it looks like on a thicker rope. So you can see the loops start at the bottom and then they come up through the last hoop at the top. They don't go through all of them in the middle. You know that if you put knots into your rope to shorten it, and if you leave these knots in long term, they will affect the rope in a few ways. So one is obviously it gets a bit too tight or difficult to undo the knot. And the second way is it will actually permanently cause a fold or kink in the rope, and that may be less than ideal. So if you really want to care about your rope being nice and smooth and straight, then you may want to untie them every time after you flow. Otherwise, if you're happy with the length of your rope after the knot, you can leave it in as it is.